educating these Malayans, the Malays in particular, the Chinese and the Indians. We have to educate them and then send them back to Malaya so that we can put them in a position where they can take over the running of the country. And that's when, in 1945, 1946, they started bringing Malayans to England. And that's when Tunku Abdul Rahman and many other people came to Cambridge, went to Oxford and many other places to receive a British education. So that the British can train these Malayans with a modern education, but still retaining their old traditions and customs. So we will educate them, make them smart, but we will not turn them into brown Englishmen. If not, they go back. Yeah? The Malays will become brown Englishmen, the Chinese will become bananas, you know. We want them to still retain their old values, but we want them to be circular. And that's why in those days, in the 50s, soon after, well, not yet Merdeka, but soon after all these people returned and they were put in as ADOs, some even district officers, into various positions in government, you will find not a single Malay house that doesn't have a bar. You speak to the whole generation, every Malay house has a bar, the whiskies and the brandies, and then you go to this Melayu's house and they say, I say, old chap, can I interest you in a brandy? Let's go and have, I mean, then you look at them, you say, he speaks like Winston Churchill, but he's brown color. You know, my grandfather spoke like Winston Churchill. If he was speaking behind you, you would think, oh, Winston Churchill's in town, and you say, it's my grandfather. But that was the culture then. Islamization had not come in. But they prayed. They went to Makkah. Most of them were Haji. Fasting month, they fasted one whole month. You know, maybe they break their fast with beer, but and that was the early Malayan culture. And never mind whether you're Indian, Chinese, Malay, they didn't think of themselves as Indian, Chinese, Malay. They thought themselves as Malayans. And that was the group that the British wanted. We don't want these communist-minded people like, you know, Mustafa Hussain and Chin Peng, but these are radicals. We want the liberals, we want the secular people to take over the country. So the British groomed. Then, 1946, the British tried to introduce the Malayan Union. The Malayan Union would mean the powers of the sultans will be reduced. And if the powers of the sultans are reduced, the powers of the Malays also will be sacrificed. Because the Ketuanan Melayu writes down the rulers. So the rulers, don't forget, until today, the rulers are called Raja Melayu. Until today. Why are they called Raja Melayu and not Raja Malaysia? Because the Malays look at them as the Malay rulers. And the Malay rulers or Raja Melayu are a symbol of Ketuanan Melayu. And to erode the powers of the rulers will mean you're eroding the powers of the Malays. So they resisted. And that's when UMNO was formed, 1946. But UMNO was formed not to fight for Merdeka. UMNO was formed to resist the Malayan Union. And 2 years later, the British agreed. They backtracked on the Malayan Union, and in its place, the Federation of Malaya. The Federation of Malaya in Bahasa is Persekutuan Tanah Melayu. So So Malaya, yeah, federation is persekutuan, yeah. But Malaya is translated to Melayu. So the Federation of Malaya, or Persekutuan Tanah Melayu, actually the Federation of Malaya is Federation of Malays, not Malaya. This is how the British have misled. Now, to the Malays, the British say, Persekutuan Tanah Melayu. Oh, yeah, this is our land. To the non-Malays, is Federation of Malaya. Yeah, we are equal. But we are not equal. Because Malaya and Melayu are two different things. But for a long time, they got away with it until 1963. The Malays believed that Malaya, then changed to Malaysia, belongs to the Malays, and that Indians and the Chinese believe that they are equal in status to the Malays. The British never planned for that. The British never planned for the Malays, Chinese and Indians to be equal. The British planned for the Malays to own the land and the non-Malays to be second-class citizens in the country. Politicians didn't tell you this because the politicians are dishonest people. You cannot trust politicians. And they speak two tongues. One tongue for the Malays, one tongue for the non-Malays. That's why they say politicians speak with two tongues. Then what happened? Then the British told UMNO, we want to give you independence, but you must be the people who receive independence. We don't want this bunch of communists, terrorists, radicals, extremists. It's not good for business. It's not good for British business. 70%, 80% of this country owned by the British. And our economy, Britain, 30% is dependent on this country. We must protect our economic interests. You will protect it for us. And as horse trade, we will give you the country. You take over the running of the country. But you cannot do it alone. We cannot let UMNO have independence. You must go back and speak to the Chinese and Indians. Invite them to join you. Together, we'll give you independence. MCA was not interested. MCA was a communist party. The president of MCA was a Singh. I can't remember his name now, but you can Google it up. The first president of MCA, he was a Singh. He was a communist. Sorry, MIC. MIC was fighting for India's independence. MIC was aligned to Chandra Bose. During the Second World War, Chandra Bose came to Malaya a few times. And they set up MIC, and they were more interested to fight for India's independence, to fight the British. MIC didn't care about Malaya. Malaya is not our country is India. We want to fight for India's independence. China, so MCA, the early MCA leaders, they set up MCA to support the Kuomintang that was fighting against the communists in China. Eventually, they retreated to Taiwan. MCA was raising money in Malaya to send to Taiwan to fight the communists. MCA was anti-communist. That's why MCA couldn't support Chin Peng. And you know that many of the MCA leaders, the early MCA, were all from Malacca. And a lot of these MCA leaders from Malacca did not speak a word of Chinese. I still remember back in the 80s, yeah, as we say in the 80s, I had one accountant, Chinese, he's a Baba. He couldn't speak a word of Chinese. When I started speaking a few words of Chinese, he said, boss, sorry boss, I cannot speak Chinese. He said. I said, not a word. He says, no. I mean, serious? You mean, until today, he said, yes, many of my relatives don't speak. So these are they call them the Straits Chinese, the Babas and the Nyonyas. They were actually more Malay than the Malays. You know, the Dondang Sayang competition, they saku everything. Baba Kintek, all the Melayus all kalah with him. So, I mean, they were very Malay in dressing and everything. But these were the original MCA. Cheng Lok, you know, HSD, you know. These were the original, these are the lacquer Chinese. And don't forget the lacquer Chinese came long time ago together with Hang Lipo. And Hang Lipo's bodyguard, Hang Toa, Hang Jerman, you know, it's all from China. So, these were Chinese who had already become Malaysians. They were no more Chinese. Their dressing, their culture, their language, their food, the best food is Baba Nyonya food, you know. And but they were more interested in China, to fight the communists in China. So UMNO eventually had to convince the Chinese and the Indians, but we need you. Without you, the Brits will not give us Merdeka. They said we give you Merdeka if all three races combine. So MCA, MIC, okay, we will join. But there must be some sort of trade-off. If we fight for Merdeka together with you, okay, what's the trade-off? The trade-off is, most of the Chinese and Indians, other than the Malacca Chinese, the Baba Chinese, most of the Chinese Indians were all born in China or India. Now the British say, what happens when I give you Merdeka? What are you going to do with all these Chinese and Indians? But don't forget, these Chinese and Indians have already married. And some married local Malayans. Either of the other race, most of the Indians married Malay. And that's why we have a huge Mamak community, because they are mixed marriage between Malays and Indians. A lot of the Chinese also are married local. So they may have come from China, but their wives were, you know, from Malaya, like a few generations, and they came 400 years, 500 years ago. So their children are now Malayans. And China and India said, we are not going to take these people. They were all born in your country, not born in our country. We are not going to take them back. So we have a problem. What do we do with the second, third generation of Chinese and Indians now? We give you Merdeka, we want to send them back. So the deal was struck that Merdeka will be given, and at that point of time, 1957, whoever happens to be in the country will become citizen. You become citizen. Malay, Indian, Chinese, Portuguese, whatever. So there will be no such thing as pendatang. The pendatang stops at the time of Merdeka. That was the agreement that was made. And with this agreement that was struck, finally in 1957, Merdeka was given to Malaya. And it was given to the Alliance Party, not to UMNO. And the Alliance Party was jointly supposed to administer this country. And this went on very well. Initially, things went on well. 1955, 2 years before Merdeka, they had the first elections. The first elections in 1955, 51 out of 52 seats were won by the Alliance Party. They lost only one. They won 51. Merdeka, 57, 59, they repeated their success 4 years earlier. The country was happy. In fact, if you remember Tengku Abdul Rahman, he used to say, I'm the happiest Prime Minister in the world. And he was. He was the happiest Prime Minister in the world. Everything was running well, economy, I mean, we had the Korean War, and the price of tin and price of rubber was shooting up, and the country was doing great. 1959, 2 years after Merdeka, the new parliament was set up. Because that was the first parliamentary elections. 55 was the municipal elections. The new parliament was set up. And then the politicians came in and they started messing things up. So from 1959 to 1969, for the next 10 years, they played this issue, that issue, race, religion, Ketuanan Melayu, and everything was played out. And one of the people who are guilty of doing that is Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. When he wrote his book, The Malay Dilemma, basically telling the Malays, Melayu bodoh. you have this Chinese old bottle. You know, in the old days, Chinese would go around buying up these old bottles, you know. Lao Yap used to be an old bottle buyer. People became multi-millionaire. So you go around on his bicycle buying the old bottles. And then you have this senior government officer driving a Volvo. And you see the Chinese on this old rickety bicycle buying this botol lama, surat khabar lama and all that. And this Malay officer with his Volvo said, "Hey, Tauke. He said, "I got some bottles and old newspapers and whatever." Well, they said, "Why are the Malays so stupid? This Chinaman is on a bicycle, buying old bottles. You are a senior government officer in a Volvo. You call him Tauke? You should be the Tauke. He should call you Tauke." So this is where the Malays say, "Yeah, how come we are the Tauke, but they are the ones claiming to be Tauke?" So eventually this racism, you know, this religious intolerance, and I say, don't forget, these are Raja-Raja Melayu, which means our Raja, not their Raja. So we have the right of the land, not them. They are just guests, pendatang. We are the host. We decide the rules, they follow the rules. So for the next 10 years, this was how it's built up. And the other side also responded. We had PAS. And PAS, of course, played up religious issues. Malaysia not religious enough. Look at all these Malays. All their houses have bars. They're all drinking. Even Asri, the president of PAS, went to Tunku Abdul Rahman's house early morning. And Tunku Rahman came out and was holding a brandy glass. And here's the president of PAS, and he says, "MashaAllah, Tunku, you know, early morning you're already having brandy. Oh, don't worry, I still got my ayah semayang," he says, you know, I'll be praying. So, to the Malays then, I pray, no big deal. I say, come on, and then the popular propaganda was that as May 13 was going on in KL, houses were burned, people were killed. Tunku Rahman was sitting with his Chinese friends playing Chiki. You know Chiki, the Chinese card, you know, I don't know whether you still play nowadays, Chiki. So Tunku Rahman and all his Chinese taukes were playing Chiki, you know, gambling, you know. So the issue of drinking, gambling, you know, we must get rid of this government. So this is how the Islamization, the ketuanan, and from what Tunku Rahman said, "I'm the happiest Prime Minister in the world,"